Welcome to Political Beatdown. Cohen, it was a beatdown this morning. D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, as we predicted, Donald Trump's appeal on the issue of absolute presidential immunity, which was rejected by the federal district court in Washington, D.C. Trump appealed that to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, claims he has king-like, authoritarian-like immunity, and that's what was before a three-judge panel that oversees the district court. This three-judge panel was grilling Donald Trump's lawyers, was also grilling special counsel Jack Smith's team, but I thought special counsel Jack Smith's lawyers handled it well.
Well, Ben, you do know the famous line: if the boxing glove don't fit, Donald Trump's got to take a shit.
Well, Cohen, I know you were I've heard that expression before. And Cohen, I know you were taking copious notes during oral argument, and I think you want to share the notes that you took with the brigaders right here?
I had just gotten off. I was visiting my parents in Florida, and I was watching, and I saw how Donald von Schitzenpants was passing notes and then got extremely angry. And I figured the only reason that he could be getting angry, Ben, is because of your very now famous hashtag of Donald Stinks. And so I just grabbed a hold of this pen and that's the famous pen. And I just started to sketch. And here's what I sketched.
Maybe describe. This is Donald Trump. He's
at
Donald
sitting next
here.
to, of course. Yeah, those are the two lawyers that were there at the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia in the very specific case of United States of America versus Donald von Schitzenpants, signed by yours truly today, the 9th of January, 2024, with the very famous question, do I stink?
And there's a reason that his lawyer's name is John Sauer, because the scent was putrid and sour as well. But let's dig into it, because not only was Trump smelling putrid, but the arguments by his lawyers were not just putrid, but I thought kind of traitorous and treasonous. What I liked about this three-judge panel is that it existed in the world of facts. And they didn't let Donald Trump's lawyers or any of the lawyers just go on tangents and have their talking points. So, of course, Donald Trump's lawyers were armed with the talking points. They were going to cite Marbury versus Madison and all of these things that actually don't stand for the proposition that they claim it does. But I thought this moment, unlike, there was a lot of moments from this D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, but I want to play you this one where it's Judge Pan is examining this absolute presidential immunity argument being espoused by Trump's lawyer and basically testing its limits. So are you saying that Donald Trump could order SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent?
I have said this on this show. I have been saying this since the day we started the beatdown, that my biggest fear is if Donald Trump regains the office in 2024, that no one will be safe. How many times have you heard me use the expression, all of a sudden, a bunch of guys will jump out of some black van, bag you, tag you, and send you off to Guantanamo Bay, or as Donald likes to, of course, use the term of Gitmo. That's exactly the question that Judge Pan today asked Trump's attorney, Sauer. What's Sauer's first name, Ben? I couldn't catch it. But the first thing...
John Sauer.
John Sauer. There you go. That's a great name, by the way. So could you imagine? He could not answer that question. Salty, if you got that video, let's do it.
Order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival. That's an official act in order to SEAL Team 6?
He would have to be and would speedily be, impeached and convicted before the criminal prosecution.
What if you weren't? There would be no criminal prosecution, no criminal liability for that?
Chief Justice's opinion in Marbury against Madison and and our constitutional tradition and the plain language of the impeachment judgment clause all clearly presuppose that what the founders were concerned about was not.
I asked you a yes or no question. Could a president who ordered SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival who was not impeached, would he be subject to criminal prosecution?
If he were impeached and convicted first. And
So your answer is no.
My answer is qualified yes. There is a political process that would have to occur under the structure of our Constitution, which would require impeachment and conviction by the Senate. In these exceptional cases, as the OLC memo itself points out from the Department of Justice, you'd expect a speedy impeachment and conviction. But what the founders were much more worried about than using criminal prosecution to discipline presidents was what James Madison calls in Federalist number 47, the newfangled and artificial treasons. They were much more concerned about the abuse of the criminal process for political purposes to disable the presidency from factions and political opponents. And of course, that's exactly what we see in this case.
Cohen, I want to get your reaction to that.
I mean, how many times have you heard me again say it on this show? How many times do I have to scream from the rooftop and say it's exactly why we must ensure that we are registered to vote, and when we are registered, that everyone in our circle has to be registered as well, because this is what Donald Trump intends to do. He's actually looking for an answer from the court.
Yeah, and it was chilling, to hear that. And I like that the court didn't just allow Donald Trump's lawyer to start citing a Federalist paper that actually doesn't apply. It's like, here's a real world example, Mr. Sauer. Donald Trump or any president orders SEAL Team 6 to kill their political opponent. Under your view, that would constitute an official act because a commander-in-chief can order the military to do things. So it's an order to the military, official act, but it is kill your political opponent. And the answer by Trump's lawyer is that the only way there could be a criminal prosecution ever is if there's an impeachment in the House and a conviction in the Senate, and then just maybe after that, you can then have a criminal prosecution. So if all of MAGA in the House were to basically say, no, we're not going to impeach Donald Trump for killing his political opponent, we're not going to impeach Trump for killing an opponent, or whoever from killing an opponent, then you cannot have a criminal prosecution. And what you get is what you've been saying all along, Cohen, an authoritarian regime. That's what it is.
Is it me, or does Sauer sound like, in between speaking and listening to the questions by Judge Pan, he's like smoking a hookah or something, right? It's like, I mean, there's something definitely there. I mean, look, since Donald likes to make fun of everybody, lawyer Froggy over there, I mean, this is really the best argument that Donald and his people can put forth when you're talking about, the Court of Appeals in the District of Columbia, that the president has absolute executive immunity to do whatever he wants. And all he needs to do is to hide it, right? Or disguise it as in the guise that he's doing something in his presidential duties. I mean, I'm really not sure. And she tried so hard, Judge Pan. She could have just stopped it, right there and stopped, allowing this guy Sauer to go ahead and to continue to play the wordsmith game. She could have easily, done that. And I'm a little disappointed that everybody seems to let Donald get away with this sort of nonsense, because I don't care what side of the aisle that you are on, Republican, Democrat, Independent, makes no difference at all. Under no circumstances is the President of the United States, as president, acting in his official capacity, to send SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent, another American citizen. It's actually unconstitutional. I mean, think about when the United States, went after Osama bin Laden. that was authorized, not just, of course, by the president, within which to, pull the trigger, but it's done with so many different committees and members of Congress and, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I mean, this is literally the question posed. Can Donald Trump authorize SEAL Team 6 to kill a political opponent or a critic or anyone he wants and claim it as part of his executive duties? And the fact that they could not answer that question, the fact that this was not a softball question, is very disturbing, and it should be extremely alarming to each and every one of us.
Cohen, but it's worse than that. They did answer the question. They answered yes, that unless there was an impeachment and conviction by the Senate, yes, a president could have Navy SEAL Team 6 kill the political.
Well, Sauer actually uses qualified yes. So what he's doing again is he's playing the word game, but he's playing the word game with a judge, with a right, a Court of Appeals judge who is far brighter than John Sauer is. I could assure you on that. And
right.
Look, it's really a sad day for America when somebody who is most likely going to be the Republican nominee, despite all the success that Nikki Haley seems to be gathering in like New Hampshire, but assuming Trump becomes the nominee and becomes the representative of the Republican Party, first the comments about the Civil War, now about having the executive right within which to use the military or SEAL Team 6 to assassinate, United States citizens because they're either his political opponents or they're his, nemesis. They're adverse to his positions. This is extremely scary times for this country.
Cohen, you mentioned Nikki Haley because today Donald Trump was the same time his lawyers were making the argument that SEAL Team 6 could kill political opponents and there would be absolute presidential immunity. Donald Trump went back to the playbook. And so he's saying that Nikki Haley is ineligible to be the United States president. And he's reposting an article from one of these right-wing propaganda networks and saying that because her parents were not U.S. citizens at the time of her birth in 1972, she should be disqualified. He's doing the birtherism thing all over again to Nikki Haley. By the way, as Nikki Haley's making a fool of herself and saying under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, he should not be disqualified, and she's going and supporting him and not giving any pushback there. So what does Donald Trump do to her? What he does to everybody. You're not a real American. You're not born here. You're disqualified. You're ineligible. Let me just play for you, though, the special counsel Jack Smith, very important and powerful retort to what you just heard from Donald Trump's lawyers. So Jack Smith's team was represented at this oral argument by a lawyer by the name of James Pierce. And one of the things that I found impressive about James Pierce is that there were multiple opportunities where the court was telling Jack Smith's team that there could be technicalities here that Donald Trump's appeal could be rejected on, whether it's based on jurisdiction, whether it's based on numerous other issues. But Jack Smith's team says, yeah, you know what? We know that it may be more expedient and quicker if we argued you don't have jurisdiction. But these arguments that are being made by Trump here are so inflammatory, and we're the Justice Department. We're the Law and Order Department. And so when an argument's being made that the executive can assassinate political opponents, we want to be very clear as the Justice Department that that needs to be heard loud and clear, that that is not okay, that we do not stand for that. That's why we want you to rule on that, right. DC Circuit Court of Appeals. Here was the argument by James Pierce from special counsel Jack Smith's team. Play the clip.
Based on questions of separation of powers, of constitutional text, history, precedent, is there, in fact, immunity for a former president? We think the answer to that is no, for of course, all of the reasons we put in the brief, and I'm happy to sort of address here. Candidly, I think if the court gets to that second question, there are some hard questions about the nature of official acts. And frankly, as I think Judge Pan's hypothetical described, I mean, what kind of world are we living in if, as I understood my friend on the other side to say here, a president orders his SEAL team to assassinate a political rival and resigns, for example, before an impeachment? Not a criminal act. President sells a pardon, resigns, or is not impeached? Not a crime. I think that is extraordinarily frightening future. And that is the kind of, if we're talking about a balancing and a weighing of the interests, I think that should weigh extraordinarily heavily in the court's consideration.
And before getting to that argument, the court continued to say that based on the prevailing case law about what's called interlocutory appeals, appeals in the middle of a criminal case before there is a conviction, this case from 1989 called Midland Asphalt, a decision that was authored by Justice Scalia, seems to indicate that because absolute presidential immunity isn't codified in a statute and it's not directly mentioned in the Constitution, that those are the only circumstances where you can take an interlocutory appeal. For example, the double jeopardy clause or the speech or debate clause, things that have strict textual support, and there is none for absolute presidential immunity. All you have is an adverse inference based upon the impeachment judgment clause of Article 1, Section 3, Clause 7. So there was an initial issue that this Court of Appeals may not have jurisdiction to even hear this in the first place and send it directly back to the trial court, Judge Chutkan, to have an immediate trial. So by all accounts, whether you were talking about the merits where Trump's lawyer was making the argument that the Navy SEALs could kill a political opponent and there would be absolute presidential immunity unless there was an impeachment or a conviction, or then before that procedurally, the issue on jurisdiction, this wasn't close, Michael Cohen. That's why it was so important that we played here on the Midas Touch Network the full thing, because I want people to hear what is happening.
We're not doing what Donald does, Ben. And that's something that I think our brigaders obviously know, and they know well. That what we do is we don't go ahead and give you the bits and pieces, the one-liners, and without the context and without any follow-up here. These are their words. And it went on even longer. You know, this judge, Judge Pan, didn't stop. She said, wait, let me sort of just try to get this straight from you, because I can't seem to get a yes or a no. I mean, I think that, you know, if you wanted to waste 10 full minutes of listening to the exchange back and forth, you will realize that there's a real sickness at that table between Trump and his lawyers. There is something very, very wrong going on over there, and it's something that involves and can unfortunately affect each and every one of us. You know, you too, Ben, let me be very clear about it. You know, you're on certainly the Trump radar. Now, I don't think that you're as high up on the list as, say, myself, and I'm not trying to one-up you on this one. I'd rather it be somebody else. But let me be clear about it. Every single person who Donald Trump is angry at, you now have to wonder, wait. If this guy wins and the inauguration is on a Tuesday, do I have to fear Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that I'm going to be walking with my family or walking by myself and, next thing I know, a bunch of guys jump out of a truck? Because that's what Trump is saying. That's what John Sauer is saying, that he has the absolute privilege as president of the United States to do. And then the greatest is he then tries to go ahead and to project it on, well, this is part of like what the Biden administration is doing. I mean, it's really, truly, it's a sick art, but this guy has certainly mastered it.
Well, when you have propaganda networks that will take that message and blast it out And then you have all the other media out there, the other major media that both sides the issues. It's relatively easy to do that if that microphone keeps on blasting that out. So we showed you there just some of the main arguments from the oral argument. We have the full oral argument that's loaded on the Midas Touch network as well. You could hear the full hour and 10 minutes of it, so you can judge for yourself. But here's what Fox had to say about it. After all of this, after Trump's lawyers got destroyed, after objectively, whether it's on the procedural grounds or on the merits, this was a wipeout. There's no other way to categorize this or characterize what this is. It was a wipeout. But here's what Fox had to say about what went down. Play this clip.
On his left. And I have to tell you, Harris, I thought the three-judge panel was somewhat skeptical of the Department of Justice's arguments. You could tell they were concerned about precedent that they would set if they said a president is not immune from prosecution for acts conducted during office. They also obviously are wrestling with what does in fact though happen if a president, say, commits some kind of crime while in office. What happens after that? Yeah. But I certainly walked away from there not thinking that they had landed anywhere in particular, but that they themselves are wrestling with it as well.
Well, look, Harry, everybody's reputation's on the line here. Everybody's. So they know they have to get this right, whichever way it comes.
That's right.
Yeah, they're on the line
right.
too. Great to see you. Thank you very much. Great report.
You saw that right there. First off,
great reporting. Great reporting. Thank you. You couldn't figure it out. You couldn't figure it out because you're a dumb shit. That's the fucking problem. Because you care more about, playing to this fucked up audience that Fox has versus protecting American democracy. By the way, the first time that this idiot opens her mouth and says something that Donald doesn't like, don't think that you're immune from prosecution either. And by the way, I forget the name of the host on that Fox show. If you left it up to Donald, you wouldn't even be allowed. You wouldn't even be allowed to be a host. I mean, listen to what he said. Even for God's sakes, it's beyond baffling. Listen to what he said about how he would have resolved the Civil War quickly, as opposed to, the way Abraham Lincoln did it. Where do you think he's going with that comment? You think that that's a comment that he's so smart that he could have figured out how to bridge and negotiate a deal between the North and the South? Of course, the only thing that they were fighting about was slavery, and knowing Donald to be the racist that he is. Where do you think he's going with that comment? For God's sakes. If that doesn't disqualify him, if Roe versus Wade doesn't disqualify him, if the fact that he believes he could kill somebody or send the military or SEAL Team 6 to come get you because he's angry at you, if that's not a disqualifier, forget about the 4 indictments, maybe soon 5. Forget about the 91 criminal charges against him. Forget about the accusation or the allegations of sexual assault, or I think the court even described it as rape. Forget about all that shit. The fact he believes that he can call out the military to do what Vladimir, for example, Putin does when, what was his name? Mikhail Khodorkovsky walked into the Kremlin and said to Putin at the time, I think he was the richest Russian on the Forbes list, that he's going to use his 18 or 28 or 38 billion dollars in order to run against Putin for the presidency. Putin called the military up. He never left the Kremlin. They literally jailed him, and they jailed him for years, and then they took away all his money. So, folks, where do you think that we're heading? We are heading by a copycat wannabe authoritarian dictator, Führer, monarch, supreme leader, scumbag. I mean, where are we going? This is why we have to fight. And when I say fight, I'm not talking about fighting like January 6th. We have to fight at the ballot box. We have to fight to get people registered as Democrats. And we need that blue fucking tidal wave more now than ever before. We need to expand and to grow the Midas Touch Network. We need to expand and grow Political Beatdown Brigade. We need to be able to show up to D.C. as a force of 1 million. 1 million, so that people understand we are not going to be ignored. We need to increase the size of mea culpa and bring it so that you could hear like Legal AF, or you hear the Midas Brothers. Everything on this network that you're going to hear is going to be relevant in the upcoming election. I mean, we sit and we listen to things, or I shouldn't say we, because I certainly didn't listen to that Fox bullshit. But the fact that there are people that are listening to this and that they accept it. You know, when I was just with my parents in Florida, there's a whole group of older people. I'm talking about retirees that listen to Fox 24/7. And they, of course, had to come over and try to convince me on how smart they are, right? I mean, some of them certainly went Ivy League and so, but they could be some of the dumbest motherfuckers you've ever met. They spew the same horse shit that this idiot was spewing. They talk about Alina Habba as if she's the next, you know, I don't even know who to describe her as, you know, in terms of legal capability, but a genius, a rocket scientist. A rocket scientist. I mean, she's as dumb as shit, and the arguments that they're making consistently lose. And they don't even understand that Donald's losing in the courts. They legitimately think that he's winning them all. I'm so baffled, Ben.
Well, when that's all they watch, and you have Harris Faulkner there, that's the name of the Fox host. The guest was the former Department of Justice spokesperson for Donald Trump, which they don't show that, but they just act like this is someone giving their legal analysis of what went down. When they're calling themselves news, when they're reporting about events that happened, people rely on the news and that they're going to get accurate info. And if you want to talk about the big lie, imagine a big lie getting pumped 24/7 by a propaganda network into the United States of America to try so hard to divide the American people, to put all that negative energy out there by just blatantly lying over and over again about what went down. And then you notice too what Harris Faulkner did at the end there. There was a veiled threat. A lot of people's reputations are on the line. Yeah. And she's talking to the judges, and she's talking to people. If you get this wrong, serious things are going to happen to you, is what she's saying. There's no, why would you ever say that? Who, as a reporter, says people's reputations are on the line? Isn't that an obvious thing that every day your reputation is on the line when you go out? When we're doing this podcast, our reputations are on the line. When I teach at USC as a law professor, my reputation's on the line. When I go in front of every judge every day, my reputation's on the line. When I have small interactions with people every day, no matter who I greet, whether it's a waiter at a restaurant, whether it's an attendant, wherever, my reputation is on. So why would you say that unless it is a veiled threat directed at people who you think are watching this, to let them know, be very careful of what it is that you do right there.
Hey, Ben, you remember on our last show, I turned around, and actually on the last like 5 or 6 shows, I turned around and I said, don't be surprised if Trump wins. And when he stated that he's going to rewrite the Constitution, I say this so often already that it's almost irritating, but it's worth repeating again and again because it's our future. He's going to rewrite the Constitution. He's going to destroy the tripartite system of government. No more legislative branch, no more judiciary. Why? Why would he do that? Now couple that to what we just saw today. You may remember I had turned around and said he's going to do it so that he becomes the king, right? All power conferred upon the executive branch, no one to stop him, all right? If no one's there to stop him, now all of a sudden he has the ability to just pick up the phone, and because of these folks are going to be signing loyalty oaths, he'll start locking up Supreme Court judges. He'll start locking up federal court judges, like the 3 that were on the panel today, the district court judges. Anybody that he thinks did him wrong, enjoy Guantanamo Bay, enjoy Supermax, enjoy a gulag. because he thinks it's fucking funny. This idiot doesn't understand that, yeah, it's funny for him because he's the one he's going to create a civil war. That's what he's looking to do. And I'll tell you, Ben, I can't say it enough. The registration, extremely important. And what I really love to do, because we have a lot of people with us, today, if you're registered to vote, and I don't care, registered Republican, Democrat, doesn't make a difference. If you're registered, just hit that blue heart so we know that. And if you're not, right, do a red heart so we know that you promise. You're taking a loyalty promise oath to Ben and I right now that you will absolutely do it this week, that you'll do it when we finish with this, our program, that you will go online and that you will register because it's that easy. Yeah, I mean, I want to see blue. I want to see blue across the line. Exactly. That's what I want. By the way, hey, Ben, real quick question. What's your favorite charity?
My favorite charity, 1 and 9, is a breast cancer charity that I used to do events with growing up.
The reason why is we have a bunch of brigaders that are asking if I can auction off the old Do I Stink, put it in a little frame, send it off to them or something like that. I'm happy to do that. And for you, I would donate it to your favorite charity.
Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention one of the charities I sit on the board of, which is Know Your Rights Camp, where I developed a autopsy initiative where we provide free second autopsies to anybody who lost a loved one to a police-related death. It doesn't matter what your politics are. It doesn't matter what your view is. If you lost a loved one to any police shooting or excessive force and you just need answers, the Know Your Rights Camp autopsy initiative that I started with Colin Kaepernick pays for it. No questions asked, whatever the cost is. And we have pathologists across the country that offer that service. So just give you that.
Let's do the first one. Let's do the first one, your breast cancer one, and then I'll start doodling for the next show. Right? I'll try to find something funny to doodle, and we'll do it. But
this is some breaking news right now as well that ABC is reporting this, and it just broke over the wire. Donald Trump intends to personally deliver part of the defense's closing argument at the conclusion of his civil fraud trial in New York on Thursday. Sources familiar with the former president's strategy tell ABC News. So Donald Trump is going to want to represent himself and be a fool, have a client as his own, a fool of his own client right there. And we will see what Donald Trump ends up doing. I want to talk about that and more. Let's just take a quick break.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing right. So maybe you finally organized one part of your space and you want to tackle another. Or maybe you're taking your supplements every morning and now you just want to actually eat breakfast too. Therapy helps you find your strength so you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick. I personally benefited from therapy myself. Therapy is helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. It isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma like I have. It's for everyone because what you're going through matters. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. So just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Celebrate the progress you've already made. So visit betterhelp.com/beatdown today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/beatdown.
Heart health and staying healthy, especially when you have a family that you want to be able to spend as much time with as possible, is so important. We could all benefit from heart healthy energy. One of the best ways to get some by supporting your blood pressure and circulation. Super Beats Heart Chews are an easy and convenient way to support healthy blood pressure. They're plant-based and stimulant-free, so you get a green boost without the jitters. Paired with a healthy lifestyle, the antioxidants in Super Beets are clinically shown to be nearly 2 times more effective at promoting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. Super Beets Heart Chews are incredibly delicious and so much better than any alternative supplements out there. I take my Super Beet Heart Chews each morning, and it's really kickstarted my morning routine. After taking my Super Beets Heart Chews, I feel like I have more energy and I'm ready to take on the day. Super Beets is the #1 doctor, pharmacist, and cardiologist recommended beet brand for cardiovascular health support. It's blood pressure support you can trust. Super Beets Heart Chews supports healthy circulation, so you not only get blood pressure support, you also get productive, heart-healthy energy without the crash. Double your potential with Super Beets Heart Chews. Get a free 30-day supply of Super Beets Heart Chews and a free full-size bag of turmeric chews valued at $25 by going to beatdownbeats.com. Get this exclusive offer only at beatdownbeats.com, spelled BeatdownBeets.com. And have a great day.
So a lot of breaking news over the past 2 to 3 minutes. It's why I love doing this show live, so we could stay on top of all the breaking news and developments. So you have Donald Trump saying he's going to represent himself and do part of the closing argument himself in the New York Attorney General civil fraud case on Thursday. And then you also had moments ago, Donald Trump posted that the reason that he appears so frequently on Epstein's plane log is that this was AI doing it, that his name's actually not on it. And all of the references to him in the court file, all of the references to him on the plane, all of the communications between him and Jeffrey Epstein, him saying that he likes Jeffrey Epstein and that he knows that Jeffrey Epstein likes to be with young girls or young women, young girls, that all of that actually, Michael Cohen, he's now saying it's AI. And what I noticed, let me just give you the 2002 quote from Donald Trump, just so I'm very specific. In 2002, Donald Trump told New York Magazine, quote, "I've known Jeffrey Epstein for 15 years. Terrific guy. He's a lot of fun to be with. It's even said that he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side." Now Donald Trump is posting on his social media that all of this, the logs, everything is made up. It's all fake. It's all AI, he says. And I noticed I saw this argument. Roger Stone made the argument. You know, Roger Stone was caught on tape threatening to kill Congressmember Swalwell. And threatening to murder him. And Stone's response was, "That's not true. That's made up. That's AI." And I saw that AI thing where he said it was AI 3 days ago or 4 days ago when that story broke. And I was thinking to myself at the time, that's where they're going to go with everything. They're going to push out all this AI stuff themselves. And then anytime they engage in the conduct, they're going to say the real facts are all AI. And here you're seeing Donald Trump right now post all of these connections, his friendship, all of that is based on AI generation.
Ben Meiselas, what does artificial insemination have to do with any of this?
Horrible. I mean, you know, it's
What an asshole.
It's a good impression of him, but that's what he's doing. I mean, just think about in one day. Oh, should I add to that too? Because in the same one day, Donald Trump, in the past 24 hours, Donald Trump also said that he wants to see the economy be destroyed.
Oh,
So where Donald Trump's lawyers are saying that SEAL Team 6 could kill his political opponents, Donald Trump saying all of these links to Epstein are based on artificial intelligence, that this is all AI generated. Donald Trump's also saying he would love to see the economy crash right now because he says he doesn't want to be Herbert Hoover. Play the clip.
When there's a crash, I hope it's going to be during this next 12 months because I don't want to be Herbert Hoover. The one president, I just don't want to be Herbert Hoover.
I hope the economy crashes in the next 12 months. That's his message. And the MAGA base eats it up. They'll love it. They'll love it.
I mean, it's such a message of love, and it's a message of American future. Think about other things that Ben and I have talked about regularly on this show, which is that Donald Trump legitimately wants to burn the country down because he lost the election. That's what he wants to do. He wants to burn the country down. Who gets hurt most if the stock market crashes? Do you think that the top 1% really it's going to change? It's going to change their lives. They're not going to be able to fill up their planes or their, or their limos in order to take them to the plane to go to their 15th house. The answer is no. It's the average American. It's the working class American. It's the retiree with their 401ks or their pension profit sharing, right? I mean, that's who's going to get not just hurt, but decimated if and God forbid that what Trump is asking for or what Trump wants to see. So how can these people show loyalty to a man who wants to basically put them on the street to make sure that all the money that they have from their work that would have gone, for example, into their 401k, their stock market portfolios, whatever it might be, that he wants to see it crash? I mean, it's like going and buying, some puzzle, 1,000-piece puzzle. And he said, yeah, I really hope that it's missing 6 pieces. I mean, that's how stupid that Donald Trump's statements are. But that's what you get when you support somebody like Trump. You get stupidity to the nth degree. Terrible. It's pure evil. That's really what it is. It's pure evil.
And in that same interview that he's giving to Lou Dobbs, who no longer on Fox because of the defamatory statements that he was making, he's on what Trump is giving that interview on something called Lindell TV. Mike Lindell's TV network is where he's on. And here Donald Trump talks about being a proud election denier. This is what he says in the interview. He wants the economy to tank and says that he is a proud election denier. Play this clip.
People, they use the term election denier. I'm an election denier. I'm an absolute election denier.
Okay, he says that there. And here's what Donald Trump has to say about immigration. And he says that people are coming in from the Congo. Here's what he has to say. Play this clip.
Oh, man.
But they're coming in from the prisons all over the world. This isn't just in South America, all over Africa, in the Congo. The other day, people released from prisons in the Congo. In fact, some of these people make our prisoners look like very nice people.
Oh, God. I mean, pathetic. There's no other way to describe it. It's so pathetic that even melanoma doesn't want to be anywhere near Donald von Shits and Pants. I mean, truthfully, she wants nothing to do with him. She's the wonderful first lady that is off with somebody else. I mean, you blame her? Honestly, it's probably the smartest move that she's made so far. I mean, you can't say stupid shit like this and be the Republican nominee. I don't care. Go for Nikki Haley. Go for DeSanctimonious, the snot-nosed, the fuckface, whatever you want to call him. Go for Chris Christie. Go for anybody else. It makes no difference. You can't go for somebody. You cannot be interested in the nomination and the potential victory for somebody who's talking about, the Congo, some very, very fine prisoners here in America have said that they're worse. What the fuck is he talking about? Ben, share with me, please, because even I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, what I like, though, now is that President Biden's finally going on the offense. And people could say, we wish he would have gone on the offense earlier. Well, look, sorry, President Biden was governing the country. He was getting inflation under control. He was putting the economy on the right direction. He was spending 3 years doing the actual job, the job of the United States presidency, and taking it very seriously. And that doesn't mean campaigning every day. That's just not what he was doing. If you want someone who's a perpetual campaigner who isn't doing the, basic blocking and tackling of being a president, that's not your guy. But now he's going on the offense, and he gave a speech in Valley Forge in Pennsylvania. He gave another speech in Charleston, South Carolina, at the church that was the site of the horrific white supremacist mass shooting in 2015. And President Biden's given a very powerful speech defending democracy. And I want to give credit here to Morning Joe, because they did a great kind of Midas touch style supercut comparing President Biden's speech to Donald Trump's speech over the same 48-hour period. I want to share this with you in a moment as well. But even before that, you had President Biden come out with a press release about Donald Trump's statement, saying, in response to Donald Trump publicly wishing for an economic crash in the next 12 months, you had the Biden campaign release the following statements. Donald Trump should just say he doesn't give a damn about people, because that's exactly what he's telling the American people when he says he hopes the economy crashes. In his relentless pursuit of power and retribution, Donald Trump is rooting for a reality where millions of Americans lose their jobs and live with the crushing anxiety of figuring out how to afford basic needs. President Biden has delivered where Trump has failed the American people. On day one, he got to work fixing the economic crisis Trump left behind by helping to create over 14 million jobs, including bringing back hundreds of thousands of manufacturing jobs and lowering costs for families. The bottom line, President Biden wakes up every day working and rooting for the American people. Donald Trump spends every day worried about himself. And play this supercut that was done by Morning Joe. It's really well done. Play this clip.
For the first time in our history, insurrectionists had come to stop the peaceful transfer of power in America.
Millions of people are storming the United States. When you talk about insurrection, what they're doing, that's the real deal. That's the real deal, not patriotically and peacefully.
Trump's mob wasn't a peaceful protest. It was a violent assault.
Release the J6 hostages, Joe. Release them, Joe.
Trump's assault on democracy isn't just part of his past. It's what he's promising for the future.
Stay in those voting booths. You should stay there and watch it. If you see bags of crap coming into the voting areas, you got to stop it.
The legal path just took Trump back to the truth. That I'd won the election and he was a loser.
We're going to win for the third time, and I just don't want the results of the second.
For me and Kamala, our campaign is about America. It's about you.
First they say, sir, how do you do it? How do you wake up in the morning and put on your pants?
Look at the authoritarian leaders and dictators Trump says he admires.
President Xi of China, strong, smart, tough. Putin liked me. I got along. I got along with Kim Jong-un. Saddam Hussein. And I will say, they hung that sucker and he spit right in their face. But, tough guy.
When he visited cemeteries, called dead soldiers suckers and losers.
But John McCain, for some reason, couldn't get his arm up that day. Remember? He goes,
after all we've been through in our history, from independence to Civil War.
The Civil War was so fascinating, so horrible, because I was reading something and I said, this is something that could have been negotiated.
I refuse to believe that in 2024, we Americans will choose to walk away from what's made us the greatest nation.
We're being laughed at all over the world. We're a failing nation.
A powerful supercut there. Michael Cohen, your reaction to watching that?
I don't think that there's a reaction that I can give that's any different than yours or any of the viewers, including the ones who are, Trump supporters here. There is no comparison between these two individuals. They are polar opposites of one another. One of them is a decent human being. It's a person who cares about America. He may care about himself and his political position. Sure, I'll grant him that, but he cares about America. Then on the other side, there's an individual who doesn't give a shit about anyone or anything other than himself. I mean, he's talking about how wonderful the Civil War was. It was incredible. It was brutal. I mean, listen to the words. They hung him. He spit in their face. I mean, think about the person that you're going to be voting for. Do you want somebody who is vile, who's a vile, racist, sexist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic, Islamophobic, anti-Semite? You want that to be the president of the United States going into 2024? What the hell are they thinking on the other side? Listen, Joe Biden's not perfect. And I think Biden himself will tell you that he's not perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. And I don't think that there's any two of us on this show right now who agrees 100% with the other on every single position that that Joe Biden is taking. But one thing I can tell you, every single person on this show has absolutely nothing in common with Diaper Donald, with Donald Von Shits and Pants. And I think, Ben, that our new campaign should be Stop the Stink, right? Vote for Joe. We got to go with something like that. I mean, let's just keep rolling with the stink because, he's talking about how there's shit over there. No. That's because it's leaking out of the bottom of his diapers. I don't understand why people are still showing up, following, and supporting this maniac.
And I want to give credit where credit is due there to Morning Joe. That was a great supercut. I want to see more competition in the pro-democracy space. I welcome anything that resembles and looks like Midas. Bring it on, please. That's what we should be competing about. The love of our country and making content that shows that type of contrast. And so while you see Morning Joe, I think, doing great work with that specific supercut, I compare that to okay, well, how has the paper of record, the New York Times, been covering all of this, right? So on January 6th itself, the front page doesn't mention January 6th. There's no mention of the insurrection on the front page of the New York Times. Instead, there's an attack on President Biden that says Biden squeezed by both sides on immigration on the front page of the New York Times article, criticizing President Biden for trying to find common ground on the border situation. And the New York Times is attacking him for that, not mentioning any of the things that you just saw in the supercut about Donald Trump. All right, Salty, now pull up that other image. This was what was on the digital side of the New York Times. After everything that you just saw, this is how the New York Times headline read. Trump responds to Biden's speech, calling him a threat to democracy. Mr. Trump, campaigning in Iowa, suggested that Mr. Biden, they don't even call him President Biden in the headline, by the way. That's New York Times right there. Not Mr. Trump, Mr. Biden. He's President Biden, New York Times. He's the president right now. It says Mr. Trump, campaigning in Iowa, suggested that Mr. Biden was trying to divert focus away from issues such as the economy. And by the way, as absurd as the headline is, even the implication that Biden's trying to divert focus away from the issues of economy, that's actually the opposite of what Donald Trump's been saying. If you just listen to what Trump is saying, the reason that the economy is good right now, that Trump deserves the credit for it, that it's off the stinky ass fumes of Donald Trump's economy. That's the statement that Donald Trump is making here. I think we have this stuff's so easy to find. The fact that that's the headline. Play this clip because this is the message that Trump says about the good economy right now. Play this clip.
We have an economy that's incredible. We have an economy that's so fragile. And the only reason it's running now is it's running off the fumes of what we did, what the Trump administration. It's just running off the fumes.
So I'm not asking the New York Times.
It's amazing that it could run off the fumes and run better. I mean, that's generally not how fumes of gas, work. The car is not going to run faster. It's not going to, it's just, again, it's just more stupidity, right? Stop the stink. Stop the stink. And New York Times, come on, serious? How fucking pathetic is that? I mean, how pathetic is it that this is the way? Number one, Ben, you are 1,000% correct. show President Biden the respect that he deserves. I mean, you got Alina Habadabadaba, and you got the rest of these fucking jerk-offs constantly demanding that the press, constantly demanding that judges refer to Donald as Mr. President when they speak to him. No, he's not the president. Joe Biden is, and New York Times owes Joe Biden an apology. They owe us, the reader of that paper, an apology. He's not Mr. Biden. He is President Biden. Learn some respect.
And here's the thing. I just want the New York Times and other media just be a mirror. Just show and say what it is that happened. Why are you going out of your way to affirmatively help Donald Trump and normalize the behavior that we all just saw on the supercut? And to your point,
it's all about the Benjamins, Ben.
No doubt about it. And so here's the next headline from New York Times. This is how they describe the cult, the death cult behavior of MAGA. This is how they frame it. Trump is connecting with a different type of evangelical voter. They are not just the church-going conservative activists who once dominated the GOP. At Mr. Trump's rallies in Coralville, it was Joel Tenney, a 27-year-old local evangelist who does not lead a church, who delivered the opening prayer. The crowd responded tepidly to his impassioned recitation of several Bible verses, but the rally-goers roared to life when he set aside the scripture and told them what they had come to hear. This election is part of a spiritual battle, Tenney said. When Donald Trump becomes the 47th president of the United States, there will be retribution against all those who promoted evil in this country. And notice, New York Times is packaging death cult behavior in the form of something legitimate. Do they ever write stories how actually President Biden is building a huge coalition of real conservatives, actual Republicans, Democrats, liberals, progressives, independents, people who want normalcy? Do they write? No, they write the story that Donald Trump is attacking a bunch of cult followers who warn that the biggest threat, Michael Cohen, to our country right now, the type of people who the New York Times are promoting, believe that there will be technologically advanced mermaids who are going to cause harm to our country. And for the New York Times, that's just a different type of evangelical voter. And by the way, this is what's happening at these Trump events. Take a look at what went down at the Trump Doral a few months back, where one of the big MAGA followers named Prophet Amanda Grace talked about the real concerns impacting the American people. Take a look at this.
There's wickedness attempting to completely cover this nation in perversion and seductive, seducing spirits. I have never seen more images of more mermaids and water people in my life. That's a division in the kingdom of darkness, and they're highly technologically advanced. And we have to understand what we're dealing with. And we have to understand the rules of engagement in spiritual warfare. And we are meant for hand-to-hand combat. And we are meant to bring our cries before the throne of God, to bring judgment on the rulers of darkness of this world and of this nation. Because the rulers have set up a throne in this nation. They've set it up. Darkness has completely covered and eclipsed the White House of this nation.
And then while that's going on, Cohen, I know, right? Then Donald Trump goes on his social media platform, and these are all the ads you see on Trump's platform, where he holds a $1,000 bill and it goes, Trump is issuing a free $1,000 bill to all supporters. Liberals are furious. And then at the events where Donald Trump spews all of this nonsense, what does he do at each of the appearances? He usually goes as part of the staging of this, right? They usually go to some restaurant or some store, and Trump will buy like a pizza. And he'll chew the pizza and he'll say to his supporters, who wants to eat the pizza from my mouth? Play this clip. He goes, does anybody want to eat the pizza I've eaten? And I'm going to throw it to you in a second, Cohen, but here's the point I want to make. If you make people feel worthless and then you give them like a peanut, they will think that, wow, Donald Trump's giving me this. When I watch that reminds me of, like Saddam Hussein throwing bread at people, or Kim Jong-un throwing
Trump
food
throwing toilet paper at
or
people
Trump
during COVID. It's the
and
same.
the whole American experiment is that people are great. People deserve the best. We can all follow the American dream. And for Trump, and all these MAGA Republican governors, it's let's just treat people like crap and then use the propaganda networks of Fox and others to just blame the other side for all of their problems. And then we go, it takes a dictator to fix it. It is the authoritarian playbook that we never thought we'd see here. It's here. We need to confront it right now. Cohen, I'll give you the last rant.
Listen, let me start with the two finger salute goes to John Sauer, today, because he is assisting Trump, knowing that what he is doing will ultimately destroy democracy. It will ultimately place the lives of thousands and thousands and thousands, potentially hundreds of thousands of people in jeopardy. The entire country will be in jeopardy from an authoritarian who will jail people at his whim. So to John Sauer, fuck you, you idiot. Think before you act. Just because you're sitting there by Donald doesn't mean you have to play this bullshit. All right? Stop passing around the notes. All right? Stinky LePew there has to go. And short of that, listen, I am going to turn around to say, I'm going to combat that evangelical moron that's standing up there talking about mermaids and AI and their highly intelligent mermaids that I don't even know what they're doing. It's up there with the Jewish space lasers. You want to talk? You want to bring a fight? You think that you're going to bring a fight? Let me be very clear, you half a bag moron, right? We outnumber you. We are smarter than you. We are stronger than you. We may not yell as loud as you do, minus me, of course. But we may, as a group, may not yell as loud. But we have beaten the shit out of this group for the last 4 election cycles. And our job together, all right, you, Ben, myself, the entire brigade family, this community, we are going to fight like hell to ensure that we beat the shit out of them at the ballot box. They can threaten all they want. They can make their bullshit, idle threats. They don't mean anything. Our job is to ensure that every single person we know is fully registered and make sure that these folks get to the ballot box. That's the single most important thing. Forget about just only being registered. You got to get these folks to the ballot box. We need to vote blue. There needs to be no doubt whatsoever who wins this election by a landslide. All right. And to all of them, they get a 2-finger salute too.
There you have it, folks. Political beatdown. It was a beatdown in the DC Circuit Court of Appeals. If you want to watch the full oral argument before the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, and I suggest you do, and you take the time to hear what's going on. It's on our live feed as well here on the Midas Touch Network on our YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed to the Midas Touch YouTube channel. Also, make sure you're subscribed on audio to Mea Culpa Blue.
Yeah, let's go, folks. Mea Culpa.
The Mea Culpa audio, you will see it right there. It's the blue one, not the red one. When you search Mea Culpa, make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa Blue, and the blue one is the one you need to subscribe. There it is right there. The Midas Touch Network podcast. You got some great guests on recently as well, Cohen. And I'm loving what you're doing with Mea Culpa. And then also the Political Beatdown. Don't just watch it here. Get it on audio podcast as well. Time for us to do the after show, Cohen. Patreon.com/Political Beatdown is where we do our exclusive after show. We don't have outside investors at the Midas Touch Network. So the way we build this is through our pro-democracy sponsors. There are The link is in the description, as well as all of the discount codes as well. Support our pro-democracy sponsors, and also through our Patreon, patreon.com/political beatdown. We do exclusive podcast after shows there. We do a once a month meetup. Cohen responds to as many direct messages and as many chats as he can on that Patreon. So if you ever wanted to message Cohen, that's a way to go about doing that. And it just helps build this platform. And as we're in 2024, it's just important we build all the platforms across the board. So check it out. Patreon.com/political beatdown is where to go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And the best thing you can do is just number one, make sure you're registered to vote. Make sure other pro-democracy voters are registered to vote, and share this channel with as many people as you can. Even if it's one person a day or two people a day, just let people know about the Midas Touch Network. Let them know about Political Beatdown. Let them know about Mea Culpa. Thanks for watching. We'll see you at the after show at patreon.com/political beatdown. Shout out to the Midas Mighty.